Do you know that out of the 6 billion people on this planet, each and every one of us have their own story? Unique, precious, special. Maisha Nordics is the place for you to tell that story. I'm Evans Andrew, and this right here is Maisha Nordics. Welcome to Maisha Nordics. Today, I'm with a special lady. I know most of you have been thinking, like, why is this guy only interviewing the boys? Well, today we have someone else special, all the way from Nairobi, Njambi. It's, oh my goodness. How long has it been?
Well, it's been 9 years now. Yeah, it's been 9 years.
No kidding.
Since 2011. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, almost a decade. And when you think about it, it has flown by pretty quickly.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you didn't even announce yourself. You just
It might have seemed that way to many people, but I needed to do it like
right.
that. You know how, and this happens not just in Finland, that when you've come to a life-changing decision,
Right.
the more people you tell, the more you get a lot of dissenting voices, you know?
Right.
The idea that I'm going to pack up everything I own, sell what I cannot carry, and go back home without necessarily a plan, that it raised questions. Even my closest, I think only 3 or 4 people knew. And I was very particular about that because I had struggled for a while in the time leading up to me making that decision, you know.
Right.
I struggled with insomnia. I struggled with trying to figure out my purpose. And the day I decided that I am going to go back home, that is the night I slept for the first time in a very, very long time, you know? So I didn't tell people, but those that mattered, I told. A friend of mine even hosted me, I think, for a couple of weeks before I flew. But I needed that move for me. Otherwise, in retrospect, I think I would have ended up in a very, very bad space.
Right. I must say that looking at you in, the outer shell back then, you look like you're having a ball here. So after you left and went back to Kenya, of course, you started blogging.
Yeah.
And that what I remember those. I could almost go back to the sentences, you know, candidly explaining how you was, I don't want to say suffering, but struggling to make sense of your life here. Could you open that a little bit? What exactly was going on?
I had graduated. I had gotten a job with one of the big telecoms in Finland.
Yes.
But I did not like what I was doing.
Yes.
Right? I had graduated as a software engineer. I was a programmer, but it didn't give me joy. I did not wake up looking forward to doing what I wanted to do. I didn't even know what that was, believe it or not. I just knew that this was not it. Right? So professionally, that was an issue. And not just in terms of not liking it, I also didn't like the environment, even in a professional setting. Remember, in Helsinki, in Finland, when you go there, you're studying. Of course, you do the civils. I still remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
you do a lot of you do a lot of that. You know, I don't even know how we were able to tackle 2-3 jobs and an entire calendar of schoolwork. And we used to do it, right? And I thought that perhaps there was racial discrimination. That is the other point. There was a lot of racial discrimination, but I thought that once I have earned my stripes, right, I have studied, I am qualified. Now, when I move into a professional space, I will be treated correctly,
Right.
as a peer, But that wasn't the case. On several occasions, I was asked, why are you coming to clean during the day? I am a whole IT guy, but when the elevator opens, someone is asking you, it's telling you it's too early to come to clean, or in meetings, you can tell no one really values what you're bringing to the table. Now, I have, after a lot of self-reflection, I realized that in two ways. Yes, there is racial discrimination, but secondly, I was extremely aware of, it's like my antenna was super high.
Right.
You understand? Things or gestures that other people might just ignore, I couldn't,
Right.
I would even pick maybe even where there wasn't any bias. So for me, professionally, those were the two things. Then on the personal front, I had lost a really close cousin of mine, and I hadn't dealt with that grief.
Okay.
I hadn't been able to get that closure. I wasn't there for her funeral. That really, really took a toll on me. And then personally, I also lost a relationship, and that also really, really, really affected me. Put all together, it was heavy, Evans. It was really, really, really heavy. I was depressed. I was drinking alcohol. I was partying. I did not see an end in sight, but mostly because I felt like I had no reason to exist. I did not have a purpose. And my final decision was, I need to return to zero.
Right.
Understand? I had to go back home, and I'm lucky because I have such amazing parents. My mom told me, ikikulemea, rudi nyumbani, and I bought a two-way ticket, but at the back of my mind, I knew, si rudi.
Right.
I knew, I sold everything. I knew I wasn't coming back. But landing back home, I started looking for a job.
Right.
It's harder than it sounds, by the way. You'd think that you have your degree and it will be easier. It wasn't, but I'll get into that later.
Okay.
As I continued living in Nairobi, I realized there was a lot of things. I had a culture shock. It sounds unreal. But I had only been away for 6 years, 7 years.
I can imagine.
I was experiencing culture shock, and I started documenting it. I started writing about all that. And that is what really caught fire to the blog.
Right.
So people would read about Matatu Madness, people would read about Kenyan culture, people would read about politics. It became a really intimate space for me, but mostly because I would, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. would find me just typing.
It was so interesting because when I was reading the blogs,
yeah,
I connected with you so much in those blogs, because then I saw what we were really going through here. I mean, what we were going through during those, I think the first 5 years in this country are very crucial, because as I've been having these conversations, the same things have been coming up. We didn't have mentors to tell us what to do.
So true.
We did not know how important integrating in terms of getting the language and actually learning about.
We didn't even know what integrating was.
Exactly. So let's walk a little bit to making this decision before you left for Kenya, because I mean you had friends here, people from Kenya as well here. How do you describe how you interacted with them, and was there sort of a support system, or it was just friendship for friendship's sake? You know what I mean? Like in your turmoil, when you're going through all these doldrums, intra-conflict and everything else, was it visible? Did did friends offer support? Did did you feel that there was somebody that you could talk to here? That, because I mean, when you're explaining this, you said that you had to consult your mom, and your mom told you that, if it's really, really hard, then come home. What about here?
I would say that I still do have those friends, by the way.
Right.
They are really amazing friends.
Right.
And they gave their support to the extent that they knew my suffering. You understand?
I understand.
I think I'm unlearning that. I came into Finland with a lot of my own insecurities and thought processes based on my past. And I hide. Up till today, I don't show my suffering until such a point that I am through it. Then I can open up. Right. You understand? So it was more of a me issue than it was more of a them issue. Right? Because I was very aware at that time the difference between friends and acquaintances. And my friend circle was very tiny. But they are amazing people. We still support each other till today. But I think for me, and I think it should also be a learning lesson, if people don't know, if people cannot notice, they cannot be able to offer the help. Yet they might be able to help. I'm telling you, I lived with a friend. I hosted a friend. You know how summer guys coming from
other parts. Yeah.
And we lived in the same house. She never saw me cry.
Right.
But I would cry in the shower. I would cry and go down on my knees, just bawling out. And after that, I would come out like nothing has happened. So it's a weight that I felt, this is my fight. This is, I'm strong. I'm a firstborn. These things that we carry, that you have to take care of everyone else.
Yes.
That played a really, really big role in getting me to that state that I ended up being. But my friends were really, really good. However, I have to point out that I had a lot of acquaintances, as is Finland. Finland is the Kenyan community is small,
Small.
Summers meant road trips, diving in the, you meet new people, house parties.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was so much fun. And I think it's very important for us, here, as there, to be very clear about friends and acquaintances, because if you expect acquaintances to support you, you will end up in a very, very bad space. So that's my feedback on the element of friends. But my friends are, God, they're really dope.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're back in Kenya.
Yeah.
After 6 years with a return ticket, but not returning.
Yeah. But then my dad could not reconcile. I kept telling them, Mimi sirudi. But I would hear my dad talking to his friends, when visitors come in. It's like, alirudi lakini, alikuja lakini atarudi. And at the back of my mind, I'm like, no. But ask me about Kenya.
You gotta love my parents, because I mean, sometimes it's just not about you; it's about them. But yeah. So you got back. Return ticket, no return. What? Because of course there is the reentry shock, the culture shocks, and it's different when you go for a holiday. But when you're actually going back, and you know that you're not coming back, it's a totally different thing. What did you first have to deal with?
I had to deal with living with my parents again.
Right.
When I left for Finland, I was 18 years old. And I have been independent for a very long time because you enter high school Form 1, you're away in boarding school, you clear, then you stay 1 year, and then now I was off to Finland. So for 6-7 years, I had all the freedom. I could plan my life, I could live my life, but coming back and having to live with my parents, I think that presented a very peculiar challenge. First off, because I had not saved to be able to come back and rent a house and start living. I didn't have that. My choice to come back was based on survival, like what, 2 months worth of pay. That of course helped with, I want to help with the bills. I want to make it easier on my parents with me being back home. I ended up staying back home for a year, but that's a story for another day.
Right.
It was not what I expected, but my folks, my mom was so supportive. My mom was so supportive. I had several interviews that didn't pan out. And I remember she even took me to 2 of them. Like she would get me to the gates. She goes, does her thing, and then comes back and picks me. I was 20, what was it, 25 or 24? But she could tell that I had gotten to a point where I was frustrated. And the first job I got was an internship.
Tell me about the interviews in Kenya, because I mean, what is the difference? You know, I mean, in Finland, you apply, you call for an interview, you go, the panelists or the interviewer talks to you for, at least in my field, the most you can go for you can have an interview is 45 minutes. And they would already made their decision, and within a week, you know. How is it in Kenya?
Okay. Professionally, it is like that. My second job, I got it pretty much the same way. But what I have found is it helps to have a connect. And by a connect, I mean not someone who is going to fight for you, but someone who's going to put a good word.
Right.
Because they will, the second job is because I had been sending my articles to my current employer. And the person who picked it up notified me that there are interviews happening. So just go send your CV and go for the interviews. You understand?
Right.
I had not even applied for the job because I didn't know there was a job. But that person notified me that, you know what, we are interviewing these people. And when I went to the interviews, the person, of course, wasn't there. But once you're there, you're able to, it's like you put your foot in and you're able to present all the credentials that you have. But it doesn't always work like that. Remember when I'm telling you the job that I finally got as an intern, I applied for it. I saw it on one of the job ad postings and I got contacted and I went and did the process. It was a very easy interview actually, because we started talking about my blog and the Kenyan culture. But I also went for like 3 more interviews for jobs that I didn't get. And even when I tell you that sometimes your abroad certificate works against you, it does work against you, you know. 2 of them were like, they had an immediate distaste for the fact that I had traveled abroad to get a degree. It was so weird. And in fact, one of the guys was like, I can speak Swahili, right?
Yes, of course.
Nyinyi ndo mnajionanga special, mnaenda kusomea huko majuu, wazazi wenyu wako na pesa, and that is the implication, right?
So that is a conversation in an interview.
That is a conversation in an interview. And the only reason I got into that interview is because we had a test. And because I passed that test, I was able now to go see the owner of the company.
Right.
You understand? And the the feeling is your parent is rich enough to pay for you school abroad, you are an entitled person. That is one of the aspects. The other aspect is some of the employers don't know how to convert your credentials to a Kenyan grade system. So it's very confusing for them. So on those two instances, I actually felt that my certificates worked against me.
So you did not get the job because the first employer thought that you were privileged.
I feel,
yes,
of course, that wasn't given as the reason,
but
I feel
your intuition, yes.
Went, I felt that guy immediately disliked my credentials,
right,
because of the assumption. But I had passed. In fact, I had topped the test that they had given. You understand? Right. But I think my advice is to temper your expectations. Because when you come back, you are, of course, proud of what you've achieved. Getting a degree in Finland is hard.
It's hard.
It is so hard.
Thanks for watching. Watch out for part 2 of Courage to Go Back to Zero. You don't want to miss this. Maisha Nordics, stories as we are.